If you've never considered owning a medium-range Mondeo-sized car with a Kia badge on the bonnet, then you're not alone. But you probably reckoned without the brand's striking-looking Optima, a car set to win new friends for the Korean maker in this segment. We think differently about Kia these days, or at least many of us do. Those who've taken the trouble to note the Korean maker's increasing excellence when it comes to cutting-edge city cars, super minis and SUVs. The broadly business-based market for Mondeo-sized medium-range models, though, has never taken Kia especially seriously. But now it needs to. Because of this car, the Optima. Sleek, head-turning looks add the want one factor previously missing from Kia's unremarkable offerings in this sector. But there's plenty of sensible stuff too. Frugal diesel power matched with this rising brand's usual attributes of high equipment levels and strong value. All of which is just as well, for products like Ford's Mondeo and Volkswagen's Passat have set the bar high in this sector. Now, Kia says it's fine with that, pointing to the fact that this model became South Korea's best-selling car within just a month of going on sale, and that demand has been so great stateside that they've had to build additional models there just to keep pace with it. All very well, but European buyers expect a lot more than their Asian or American counterparts. Can this Optima really deliver? Can it really break into the domination that the big brands enjoy in our demanding business market? And can it, at the same time, as Kia suggests, offer thoughtful private family buyers a stylish choice that's deliciously different? Let's find out. It's one thing, of course, to make a car look sharp. It's another thing entirely to make it drive that way. But Kia's progress on driving dynamics in recent years has been encouraging, and it looks, on paper at least, as if it might be continued here. A longer platform than anything the Korean brand has previously offered in this segment should help in this regard, as should the use of a weight-saving body shell that uses high tensile steels for strength and torsional rigidity. What isn't on offer is much choice under the bonnet. Until it's gained a foothold in this segment, Kia is probably wisely focusing on where the real sales are, namely with medium-powered diesel models. Hence the emphasis from launch on the 134 brake horsepower 1.7-litre CRDI diesel that I'm driving here. You can at least choose between manual and automatic gearbox options. The 6-speed auto featuring a set of largely redundant gear shift paddles behind the steering wheel. Given the running cost penalties involved in going with the auto, most will stick with the manual gearbox that I've got here, that features a detached robotic gear shift action, much like that in some of Kia's cheaper models. There's not much satisfaction to be had from the MDPS motor-driven power steering system, either. That's a bit, it's on the lightish side. And the handbrake feels like something from a far less expensive car. But from here on in, the news is mostly good. The leather-covered steering wheel feels good to hold, and the car feels fluid and stable through fast twisting roads. It also helps that ride from the fully independent multi-link rear suspension is excellent both on major routes and poorly surfaced minor ones, providing you don't opt for one of the plusher models with their larger 18-inch wheels. That'll be important to this car's mainly business clientele, though not as vital as long-legged motorway refinement, something else you can expect from this Optima. In terms of outright speed, a 1.6-tonne curb weight is one reason why this car takes a little time to pick up pace. But once it does, the turbo keeps things ticking over very nicely. There's certainly plenty of overtaking speed, thanks to the torque of the engine. It demolishes the 30 to 50 mile an hour overtaking increment about 2.5 seconds quicker than you'd find in a rival Ford Mondeo 2-litre TDCi. For the record, rest to 60 occupies 10.2 seconds in the manual gearbox 1.7 CRDI model. That's the car I'm driving here, on the way to a top speed of 125 miles an hour flat out. If you opt for the auto gearbox variant, then those figures fall to 11.5 seconds and 122 miles an hour. A lot of this car's success to date has had much to do with the way that it looks. So once again, Kia has plenty to thank Chief Design Officer Peter Schreier and his team for. Conceived in Frankfurt and California, it's longer, lower and wider than anything the Korean brand has previously brought us in this segment. True, not everyone will like the big expanse of metal around the C-pillars, but it is unusual and offers just a hint of the coupe-like feel that Schreier was apparently seeking with this clean sheet approach. Overall, the wedgy shape with its high hunched shoulder line and low glasshouse would suit a premium badge, and that pretty much says it all. Take a seat behind the wheel, and with all the musical chimes and on plusher models electric adjustment to automatically bring you closer to the wheel, you also notice some areas where the choice of trim and materials is probably better suited to the lower family hatchback segment. But if in some parts a premium feel is missing, then it's compensated for by careful design, plenty of features and solid build quality. That is suggestive of Kia's consistently strong showings in the annual JD Power customer satisfaction surveys. Now, this is one of those so-called aircraft cockpit-inspired cabins, which broadly means that the fascia has been slightly canted towards the driver so that all the major controls are within your sight line for best visibility and ease of use. Personally, I'm keener on the little touches, the auto defogging system for the solar glass work, the sunglasses holder, the cooled glove box that you get right across the range, not just in the plushless models. Oh, and the aero wiper blades that have been specifically designed not to squeak in the rain. And on top of that, there's a truly excellent premium 12-speaker Infinity audio system that you get on plusher models like this one. Far better sounding than many of the much more expensive systems you get on some luxury cars. Moving to the back, and the good news continues. Thanks to a longer wheelbase than anything Kia has previously offered in this sector, this car is up with Ford's Mondeo and Skoda Superb in terms of the amount of rear seat space available, and that means there's a great deal. Not so much in terms of elbow room, although there is more of that than you get in an Insignia or a Passat. More in terms of leg space. Someone 6'4" could easily sit behind a driver of the same height, and that means that more modestly proportioned folk like me will feel like they can really stretch out. Luggage space isn't quite as expansive, but get your stuff over this lip and you should find that 505 litres will be quite enough for your average day-to-day needs. If it isn't, then after releasing a couple of pull catches, you can push forward the rear seats, though they don't fold anywhere near flat when you do. Kia feels confident about a little more bravery in its pricing structure these days. So it is that this Optima occupies pretty much the same £20,000 to £25,000 bracket as every other contender in the diesel sector of the medium range market. Now, the diesel sector bit is important. Though the Korean brand has engineered both petrol and hybrid engines for this car, the UK sales push is based around the 1.7 litre CRDI diesel that was developed for its Sportage SUV, here developing 134 brake horsepower. There's a choice of either manual or automatic transmission, and whichever variant you select, you should find yourself saving around £1,500 over the cost of an equivalent version of an obvious rival, cars like Vauxhall's Insignia 2-litre CDTI, the Volkswagen Passat 2-litre TDI, or the Peugeot 508 2-litre HDI. Now, you can get a Ford Mondeo in equivalent guise for around the same kind of money as this Optima, but it won't be as well equipped. Only this Kia's design stablemate, Hyundai's i40, can really provide an Optima rivaling proposition, as you'd expect it would, given its use of the same engine and basic floor plan. But it doesn't have the style of this car, and that could make all the difference. Now, whichever trim variant you choose with this model, you should find that it comes decently equipped. So all Optimas get alloy wheels, air conditioning, cruise control, Bluetooth with voice recognition for your mobile phone, a trip computer, hill start assist to stop you drifting backwards on uphill junctions. Then there's a leather covered steering wheel with audio controls for the 6-speaker MP3 compatible system that also has AUX and USB ports. If you stretch to the mid-spec models like the one I have here, you'll find that for the price of a base spec version of an obvious rival, there are lots of little luxuries thrown in. Things like colour touchscreen satellite navigation, an integrated colour reverse parking camera, and a truly brilliant sounding 12-speaker premium Infinity audio system that includes a central speaker, an 11-channel external amplifier, and an 8-inch subwoofer. The one feature I probably would try and avoid is the large panoramic sunroof that's fitted to top models, because it eats into headroom that wasn't especially lofty in the first place. As for safety, well, there's everything you would expect. Large front, side and curtain airbags are fitted to every model, and there are the usual anti-whiplash front head restraints and Isofix child seat fastenings. There's even a pedestrian-friendly bonnet with an inner frame that absorbs energy should a head strike it. Now, to prevent such a worst-case scenario ever happening, all the usual electronic driving aids are in evidence. So the ABS anti-lock braking system is made more effective by EBD electronic brake force distribution and helped by brake assist in emergency stops, advertised to following motorists by automatically flashing brake lights. There's also the expected electronic stability control, ESC, which is linked to Kia's VSM vehicle stability management system. And that's a setup that's able to sense when the wheels on one side of the car are on a lower grip surface than those on the other. And it's then able to adjust the level of steering assistance accordingly. Now, the whole point of focusing the sales push behind this car on frugal diesel power is to produce the low running costs that this model's mainly business clientele will certainly demand. So it is that a start-stop system has been fitted to cut the engine when you don't need it, waiting at lights or stuck in urban traffic. And that means that the 1.7 litre CRDI unit that I'm driving here will manage 57.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and put out 128 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, that's a useful set of figures. It's a significant improvement on, say, a rival Ford Mondeo 2-litre TDCi, but it's not class-leading. You have to wonder why Hyundai's i40 with exactly the same engine is able to better these statistics, particularly when Kia's Ecodynamics program has clearly put in so much work to make this car as efficient as possible, with everything from a sleek 0.29 CD drag factor to an MDPS motor-driven power steering system that offers assistance only when needed to reduce load on the engine. Efforts have also been made in this regard with the automatic version, a car featuring an active eco button that in urban motoring tweaks the ECU and the climate control system to deliver fuel savings of as much as 9%. And that sounds good until you examine the actual returns from this variant, 47.1 miles to the gallon and 158 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, those are way behind the figures returned by the manual model. Better news, though, is found in a couple of class-leading cost factors. First, insurance groupings that at 16 to 17 on the 1 to 50 grouping scale are unbeaten in this segment thanks to a set of low repair costs. Then, on top of that, you've got the trumpeted 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. It's worth pointing out that this actually only applies to the engine and gearbox. It's 5 years and 100,000 miles for everything else. But it's still a very strong selling point when it comes to the used car market. And it's one reason, perhaps, why the residual values on this model outsmart those of a rival Ford Mondeo. Ongoing residuals will depend on whether Kia's momentum as a desirable brand can be maintained in this market. Now, personally, I think it would have helped this model's cause if it had been called K5 as it is in South Korea, rather than having a moniker previously used to sell washing up liquid. But cars that are as good looking as this can probably get away with being called almost anything. Servicing costs should be affordable. This car needs servicing every year or 10,000 miles, and you can budget ahead with one of Kia's fixed price 3 or 5 year Care3 plans. Kia has been here before. 10 years before this Optima arrived, it launched its first generation Magenta Saloon on the UK market, a Mondeo-sized model then seen, like this one, as a groundbreaking product for the brand. There was a momentum back then with that car that wasn't maintained as subsequent versions drifted back into the Asian mediocrity that Kia has striven so hard to break free from in recent years. But that was then. This is a marque very different these days, and it can't afford to allow the same thing to happen again. The South Koreans have to aspire beyond budget brand status if they're to avoid being steamrollered by emerging Chinese manufacturers. And this Optima is another step on the road to respectability alongside the Fords, Vauxhalls and Peugeots of this world. That's guaranteed. Strong sales aren't in a sector crammed with so many excellent alternatives. But for those willing to give it a try, this car has much to offer. It looks good, it drives pretty well, and it'll certainly be very practical to own. Families will enjoy the space, and it'll certainly be a very smart set of wheels for the middle-ranking managers who sweep backwards and forwards across the country from motorway service areas to shining industrial estates and home again. As for the established brands, well, if they're smart, they'll be taking this car very seriously indeed, because that's what an increasing number of thoughtful buyers will already be doing.